Okay, so yeah, what you're talking about. Well, let me review the IV curve thing because chapters 1 through 3 is really what we're focused on here. And I think
Right.
the IV curve gets into one of those. If not, that's fine. Because the IV curve is really foundational. Um, so it's if you don't understand about IV curves and what they mean within solar, you're going to get lost. So I want to make sure everybody understands that right off the bat. So let me see here if I do the whiteboard. Okay. Can everybody see my whiteboard here? Is that I
Yep.
see a nodding? Okay. Yeah. So so typically with an IV curve, you're going to have amps, and amps are always designated in the abstract as an I for intensity de kilovolt, and then volts. So with amps, it's like if I say watts equals amps times volts, I would designate it with an I. But if I say 60 watts equals zero point 0.5 amps times 120 volts. Notice now we're going to be using an A when we have the number. So nothing confusing about that, but it's just that we use it in the abstract. I think it's because angstroms was taken or whatever. All right, so in the IV curve, this is 0, amps going up this way, volts going that way, and a typical IV curve at STC is going to look something like this, although it would be curved, but my ability to write on this whiteboard is limited. So you're going to get a curve that's something in this vein. And there are a couple of spots on this curve that we need to be aware of. The maximum number of amps, and I should just say this is at STC. And if you recall from the thing, STC, there are essentially 3 different conditions that have to be met at STC. One is 1,000 watts per square meter of irradiance, right? So hopefully everyone's nodding about that. Then there's 25 degrees Celsius for temperature, and then 1.5 atmospheres, or the sunlight is coming through about 1.5 atmospheres. And some of the discussion about how they came up with that, it really didn't matter what they came up with as standard test conditions, because all they're talking about is let's compare one thing with another thing under similar conditions. So I want this panel, if I'm saying it's a 300 watt panel, under what conditions? Doesn't really matter as long as everyone agrees what those conditions are, so that the next panel is going to be under those same conditions. And we say that one 300 watt panel is similar to that other one 300 watt panel. So they were all meeting in Paris, to my understanding, and they said, what should standard test conditions be? And they said, well, I don't know. How about today? Right. So they go outside and it's a sunny day, and that's about 1,000 watts per square meter. So they rounded it there, and it was about 25 degrees Celsius. That seems good. And in Northern Europe, it's about 1.5